right, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, IVS. How is everyone doing? Oh, nice. See some familiar faces and some new ones. Nice to meet you all. My name is Antti. I'm the organizer of Takeoff Tokyo. We're now at I guess the coolest startup festival in Kansai, IVS, and I think I'd like to say we run one of the coolest ones in Kanto. So yeah, nice to meet you. And today we have a great panel discussion with investors, entrepreneurs from Japan and overseas. Is the mic loud enough? Can everyone hear me? Okay, nice, thank you. So yeah, let's introduce the panelists. We'll be talking about how venture capital works and allocates money internationally. So let's introduce our first panelist. So Trang, please let us know who you are and what you do.
Hello everyone, I'm Trang Nguyen. I'm the co-founder of Transpo Platform. We are a formation venture capital firm. So we work with entrepreneurs and usually the repeat entrepreneurs to incubate companies. So it can be one companies or it can be multiple companies through a studio venture structures. We also enable them to incubate funds. So we partner with seasoned entrepreneurs to create funds, platform, and disruptive venture structures so that we can fund them. We also invest in companies on these platforms as well. So we're very lucky to work with Open Home. You should get to know Open Home team like that. They are also serial repeat entrepreneurs, and I think they create a significant AI voice application. And LLM speaker, you should definitely talk to them after. We always invest ahead of the curve. So in 2017, we actually seed invest in quantum computing in Canada named Xanadu. We also invest in AI chip company named Grok. I don't know if you guys heard of Grok, but that's one of our early investment in 2018 that we seed. So that's a little bit about us, and I would like to transfer to Reiko so that she can talk about herself.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Keiko Sunam, co-founder, CEO, Luca Japan. So Luca Japan is alternative investment online platform. So we are digitalizing investment process of this private market fund, including private equity, venture capital, all those like infrastructure, real estate, new area of the investment strategies, and also fractionalize of the investment opportunities so that more people, non-big institutional investors can come into this market. So mainly like we do talk to high net worth individual corporations, regional banks, and also like family offices. And then also like we did building a family office community these days, and then it's very new concept for Japan actually, but it's a very interesting dynamics that we can talk about later. So pass on to you.
Thank you. My name is Stefan Nilsson. I run my own family office out of Tokyo. I've spent about 27 years in alternative investments, in hedge funds, private equity, venture capital, real estate, anything in that space. Worked for a few of the big firms, funds, as well as some of the banks like JP Morgan. Launched my own firm in 2012. And we allocate to venture capital funds, but we also go direct. And the way we do these things, if we have expertise, we will go direct because we can understand it. If we don't have our own expertise, we will find good managers that we like and that we know, that we trust, and we will give them money to do it. So for an example, we recently went into Japanese deep tech, a very exciting area, but I don't know much about it apart from that it's a very good idea. So we gave that to a Japanese VC fund manager to manage it for us. So that's sort of how we operate. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much for the introductions. So let's start with a warm-up question. Venture capital, why do startups need venture capital, or do they even need it? Trang, what do you think?
I think that's a very good question because I'm a VC firm, so I would say it depends, right? So you look at venture capital in the last 10 years from 2012 to 2022, VC has become a commodity, so it's become a capital provider. I think that's not what a startup wants. What a startup wants is really an asset creator, an investor who actually can provide value to the portfolio companies, and that's why I believe that we should invest, or you as a startup should work with asset creator like the Y Combinator, or some of the accelerators that we back like HF0 or Entrepreneur First, are very value-add VC funds who actually can provide value-add to the portfolio company and support the company's own part of the way. But what happened in the last decade, VC capital has become a commodity. So VC become the middleman between startup and commodity, right? So there's no value-add creation. So a lot of VC firms have go on and raise multi-stage and become multi-asset managers. So I don't need to name, but one of the most significant venture firms recently raised $7.5 billion in a fund, right? With the $7.5 billion in the fund, they wouldn't spend less time supporting the early stage startup, but more time deploying capital at later stage. So I think there's a shift right now in terms of entrepreneurs value more VC, but they have to be asset creator and add value versus asset deployer, where VC just making investment in portfolio companies.
So because the panel is cross-border, so I just wanted to put one point, because Luca is helping offshore VC or offshore investor or family offices to access Japanese investment opportunities. So as a startup myself, we always say, choose the money, right? And then, but if you want to expand beyond Japan, then it's really effective that you have the capital coming from that country. So, if you want to expand to Singapore, for instance, Singaporean venture capital probably would be very helpful. So that is well, startup always need a venture capital, but the meaningful capital is needed. Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, Stefan?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people don't know what they want or what they need. That's the big problem, because they're like, oh, we got to raise capital. I'll be like, why? And then they can't answer the questions. I'm like, well, don't do it then. It's very simple. As an investor, I really want to find startups who want to do something. I don't want to hear startups who are always talking about fundraising. And yesterday I was walking the floor here and a whole bunch of people came up to me like, oh, we're raising capital, we're doing this, we're raising capital. I said, what do you do? What is your company about? So think about how you portray yourself, because it comes across as they're desperate for money, and maybe they are, but I'm not going to invest in desperate people or desperate companies. So I think people really need to have a clear understanding what they want first.
And I just want to add one more point to Stefan's point. I would encourage startup here, if you can bootstrap and don't need to raise money from VC, bootstrap yourself. Because you shouldn't go outside to raise money just because you want to raise money, because fundraising success is not an indication of success. So every dollars that you raise, it will be calculated back into the cost of capital. So the better you are in terms of use of capital more efficiently, the better it is. And I can talk about example later, but there has been company like MailChimp, right? MailChimp was in 2018 generated 600 million in revenue, and in 2021 it was acquired for $12 billion. They didn't raise any capital. And there's many other.
Does everybody know MailChimp? Hands up if you know MailChimp. Okay. So MailChimp never raised any capital and they got acquired. Very successful.
Yeah, by Inter. Yeah.
So what kind of companies do you think can bootstrap and be successful?
That's a very good question. So company like MailChimp, where you don't need a lot of capital initially, or Zoho is another example, right? So if you look at Zoho, I think the ARR is like $1 billion. They never raise any money. And then when I look at, like the evolution of AI and technology, because we invest a lot in AI, and the way we look at that is stack it. So there's the application layer and then the infrastructure layer. And I believe that a lot of the application layer in AI, you only need to raise money one time in the future because a lot of the tasks that are being done by human beings right now can be replaced by AI. But on the other side, on the infrastructure layer or hardware layer, like for example, Grok AI, the cheap AI companies that we invest in 2018, they went ahead to continue to raise money because of the capital requirement in order to manufacture the complexity of the chip. I hope it's helpful.
Got it. There's Keiko. Do you want to add something there? Your face was saying that your face looked like you wanted to add something there, or no? Just.
I was just listening.
Okay,
That was amazing.
got it.
Like, yeah, no, I mean, as a startup, of course, like if you don't have to raise the money, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's always like needs some like as I said, like add value. It means something, right?
Yeah.
So there is some phase that you want to have VC. So that's like team up, more like it's not bootstrap, but it's more team up.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and then and also like some of the sector, like definitely as I said, like like the deep tech type of like sector, they always need a capital, right, and then big capital too. So.
So, everybody on this panel, all of you guys, I guess you've done a lot of LP investing as well. LP investing is the money that goes into a VC fund, and then a VC fund invests into startups. How do you see, like, recently in Japanese funds, where is the money coming from, and like, how does it compare with the rest of the world? I think Keiko, you've been very closely looking into a lot of people who in Japan and internationally do LP investing, not to VC funds, but also other asset classes.
Right, right.
Where is the money coming from recently?
Yeah, it's very recent phenomena that's like all the foreign money is looking at Japan now, right?
Why is that?
Well, one is very obvious. One is like exchange rate, like a yen is so cheap, and then but as asset class difference, it's a different motivation, I think. Like for instance, because we do like all crossover alternative investment, we have like private equity buyouts and venture capital, real estate. So all different people, right? So for instance, Asian money definitely wants like real estate, right? And then, but it's also like we want to invest in corporate governance, so like in the private equity. And that part is more like US and European money is coming into because there is a Japan's phenomena that's now is taking next generation and then corporate governance is definitely changing, not only just by the rule and the policy. So that's different. And then in terms of the VC, it's still like for our network people, like family offices, that are still not taking too much risk. So they want to do, if they want to do, is that they want to tag along with the VC investment, or like an LP investment, or like co-investment with the VC. So that's the approach. But I think there is a, if the investors are bigger, then definitely they have a geographic allocation. So that mapping is totally different from like 5 years ago. They have to kind of like stay away from China or like stay away from a certain area of the country. So that is coming to Japan too, yeah.
Stefan, you run like a major hedge fund club in Asia. Where do you see money going in your hedge fund club?
Well, it's very, very split. Geopolitics are playing into it big time now.
And how?
Well, China, for example, if you look at Hong Kong is not dead. If you read the Western media, it says Hong Kong's dead. I'll go to Hong Kong frequently. Hong Kong is booming, but it's booming with Chinese money. Huge difference. There's a lot of mainland Chinese family offices, hedge funds, private equity funds, venture capital funds, opening Hong Kong offices, coming with mainland money. So we're seeing that as a big push. And they also want to push Chinese strategies to get actually Japanese investments into China. And that's early stage, but that's something where people are working a lot on at the moment. And I think when it comes to Japanese, money. The big problem is size sometimes with the big investors, because they need to allocate $1 billion, and that's not possible in many cases. And if they can't,
Why is it not possible?
well, basically because the funds are too small. If they're going to allocate to a VC fund that runs $300 million, and minimum ticket will be $1 billion from the investor side, they're like, we can't give you $1 billion if you have 300 million, and if we give you less, then it doesn't move the needle because the portfolio is so big. So that's a big problem. But it's also the VC funds in Japan. Most of them have mainly Japanese investors, because they don't know how to fundraise outside. It's a language issue. It's also a cultural issue. They just don't have that expertise.
It's like so domestically run by Japanese like VCs, so only like Japanese LPs and then like as LPs. So, but it's interested there. So like kind of like Luca is now supporting those like foreign asset owners to access to Japanese VCs, because they want to invest in the startups and VC, but all the language issues, cultural issues, all the documentation.
How does foreign money see Japanese VC funds?
Sorry,
How does foreign money see Japanese VC funds?
how many?
How do they see it? What kind of reputation does Japanese venture capital have?
Okay, yeah, I mean, like, it's sometimes it's hard to just access. It's a probably language issue,
Yeah.
or they run very less resource. So if they like call up or like send an email, no response forever, or right? So that is, I think like, because I have been like doing like investor relations at big JP Morgan Blackstone, like conventional financial industry, long time. I feel really investors has to be treated as with respect, right? So once you don't get that from Japanese VCs, then they walk away. So that is a big missing opportunity. So that's why like we want to help that.
Yeah, I just want to add in something. So I've been going to Japan since 2015, so it's almost 10 years by now. And I definitely see the change that been changing in the last 10 years. One of the most exciting things for me is that if I compare with what happened in the US market on the VC landscape and Japan landscape, it's completely different, right? So in the US in the last 10 years, from 2012 to 2022, you had the boom in VC. You had the massive liquidity in 2021. There's 100 billions of IPO being raised, and then you had like a crash 2022 and 2023. And if you look at the number of VC funding in 2023, like there's maybe only like 400 new VC funding, and majority of the funding is actually going to established managers. And then in 2022, there are over 1,000 new VC funds being raised, and they raised over $170 billion in US, right? So there's a crash in the US market in terms of VC funding in both startup and also in terms of new managers. Japan is a completely different market.
Yeah,
There's so many new
there was no crash
ventures.
in 2022.
Yes, there's just like, this is the most exciting time in Japan. Like I went to Japan in 2015, and most people go to Japan before because we don't want capital for Maramuchi, right? Because, like Japan is like second GDP, everyone want money from this market. This is the first time where I see our US investor actually start looking into opportunities in Japan. So 30% of the capital in the US on the private market side have been divested away from China, and that's actually open opportunities for the market like Japan, Southeast Asia, Europe, or India to get funds from US investors. So this is a very exciting time for Japan. And the other thing that I saw is that even like the culture of startup creation has changed so much, right? Just like 5
How
years.
has it changed?
So 5 years ago, if you go and raise as a startup, if you go and raise a seed funding in Japan, there's a loan recourse. So thinking of like, if you get like 100,000 from your VC at seed, you had to pay back 100,000. I don't want to take that risk as a startup founder, right? But this change now, where you don't need to pay back the loan, which is great. And it's just like more the government, GIC, the MEDI, and so on have made such a huge initiative in terms of create innovation from Japan. There are more VC firms in Japan being formed, and the government actually work with the university to encourage the global activities from the startup ecosystem in Japan as well. So I think the only thing that I wish to see more in the future is that actually the mindset of a company in Japan. Like historically, company has been created so to serve the local market. And I want to see like the ambition so that they can go outside. It can be deep tech, but it's to serve global market. And they can apply to accelerators like YC, Entrepreneur First, and others. Yeah.
So that's a great question. How can we build companies like that from Japan that are internationally ambitious, internationally successful? I saw actually on Instagram, Gary Tan, the CEO of Y Combinator, just posted a picture from Kyoto 1 hour ago. So he's here. Like the whole world is now watching Japan. How can those kind of legendary companies be built from here? What do you think?
I think that's a very good question. So one of the things that we are doing with the government of Japan right now, the MEDI, is actually we work with the startup ecosystem here and with the accelerators in the state, like the Y Combinator, the Entrepreneur First or HF0, to create, global innovation from Japan. So we are planning to go to the university here, like University of Tokyo, Kyoto, Keio. I think you guys have the best talents in Japan, and you have produced some of the best global companies from Japan, like Toyota, Honda, and why shouldn't you create the next big thing from Japan globally, right? So that's the education program that we are doing in November, actually. So if you are a startup in Japan, and come and talk to us. So we enable a lot of startup here, and we work with the university so to enable them to apply to YC, Entrepreneur First, and as a competitive accelerator, and it enables them to get accepted to these accelerators as well.
Stefan, you've had your hedge fund club and you've been active in the scene very long. Have you seen attitudes towards venture capital as an asset class change recently? Is it still like the same as it has been, or like is it totally different now, especially here in Japan?
Well, it's improving, I would say, because some of the big Japanese corporations realize they need to get in on the game. So there are certain, CVCs and that type of thing happening, whether it's formally or informally. So that's good. Some people have left big firms like the Government Pension Investment Fund, or they've left Nikko Asset Management, started smaller VC funds. So that's a good trend. But the biggest problem is still the international part of this, because almost all the Japanese VC funds I've invested in, they have no information in English. Subscription documents, marketing materials, websites, 100% Japanese. And I sat down with the founder for dinner a few weeks ago, and he said, we got to try and get more traction with the international investors. And I said, how are you going to do that? You're going to teach the world Japanese? Might be a solution, I don't know. But it's a sort of thing where they don't think that way yet, and they need to think that way. And it all comes back to the educational system in Japan. You don't have, they don't encourage people to think. They encourage people to learn, to be very good accountants. But then you want them to be strategic and creative thinkers. That's not part of the educational system. Slowly improving in some areas, but it's starting from nothing. So that is where is a big issue, big hurdle we need to overcome here.
I actually had a different opinion. I think Japanese are actually the most creative people. If you look at the ingredients in Japan, the scarcity, right? So like from green tea, just a green tea, you had like 1,000 different type of, cheesecake, sweets, and so on. I think like when it comes to sweets and a lot of things, I actually think Japanese culture is there's a lot of creativity here. And the only things that I would say, like for a startup from Japan to build a global company, I think the best part would be to find a non-Japanese co-founder so that you don't have a local mindset, right? That's why we actually encourage a lot of Japanese founders to apply to Entrepreneur First, because that's where you can actually find your co-founders. So with EF, you apply as an individual, and you can find your co-founders, and they can be British, Spanish, Italian, American, and Indian, right? So there's a diversity in the team that would be much better. But I had to say, I actually think Japanese are the most creative
No, I agree.
people. Yeah.
I agree that the point is they're creative despite the bad system. So you can imagine if we had a good creative system, it would be the best in the world. Now they're good, it could be much better.
Yeah.
I think when you think about the VC landscape, like now, like as Stefan mentioned, like now big corporation has a CVC. It's probably like more like government are pushing them to have it, but anyway, they start doing it, and then it's probably a good thing is it's going to happen in the near future is, so they are start investing in the startups, more actual collaboration between startups and a big corporation, then as the mindset of the big conventional corporates, it will be changing. So I think that is one interesting, outcome I would like to see, because as Stefan said, even like even not Japanese capital corporation, like we've been like JP Morgan, but it's like, because we are in Japan, like going to be like really kind of a conservative mindset. But if you're a really domestic Japanese corporation, there's again totally different mindset. So, but that conservativeness would probably change when you have the spark with the startups and entrepreneurs. So that's why, like, I really want to see what's happening when the CVC is actually merged to like more interaction with the startups.
Yeah, but I think the CVC is very innovative, right? They 8,000 CVC or something in Japan.
Yeah, but it's like you had to actual collaboration happening. It's still like it's as you said, like it's more like capital deployer.
Capital deployer.
Yeah, so it has to be like asset creator.
Right.
Then probably something more positive will happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Keiko, you were talking a lot about the kind of attitudes that you want to change, but also since you help with all kinds of like family offices and all kinds of other investors like invest better, is it only an attitude issue, or is there lots of like, I think you help with everything, not only the attitude, but like I guess there's paperwork and all kinds of other stuff. Is the attitude the only thing that needs to change, or like is there, what else do you provide as a help to your family office customers?
Yeah, of course that's number one is the right education. I would say, like people stay away from that investment or like financial literacy a long time. And even like family also who has the big assets, they just keep the cash. They don't invest. Generation to generation to generation. So now it's an interesting phenomenon. It's like, okay, new gen is coming into, and they are taking over that capital. They educated abroad. They see all the peers of the family office friends. They invest. And then also they do talk about like social impacts and then philanthropy, different style of investment. So they want to participate, right? So, and a big question is again, like then next gen comes into family office, they have to convince the father and then grandfather, how to move the capital. So that is a hurdle for them. So that's like we have to give them a weapon, how to convince, right? Why this is important, and that is a kind of like an education part. And then so we create a community, family office, so they can talk peer to peer, like just exchange the idea, right? So they feel like more safe environment that they can talk about, how to convince the pop, right? So, and then, and then that creates synergy of the business sometimes, or co-investment opportunities. So having this the place to talk about this, this type of like, kind of like sensitive information, topics in a safe environment is very important. So I think like the community means like a lot, for them. Yeah, that's what we do too.
So I want to add on that, and actually it's more like a question for you. So previously I run Trust Insight, so I create a community for institutional investor. But those are endowment, foundation, sovereign wealth fund, and pension and family office in the U.S. And one of the things that I usually do with my portfolio companies or our portfolio company is get family office that can provide value add to the portfolio companies. Because it could be like, I don't know, if you manage money for TSMC, you know, TSMC probably can add a lot of value to any sort of AI chip or AI infrastructure company, right? Because everyone needs, you know, computing power. So is that kind of like how is the network and ecosystem of the family office here in Japan?
Right. So like, you know, again, like it's not so common concept yet in Japan as a family office, and not many family offices are active, but still, I think family office always has the angle that how can I help, right? So because they are the business owner, they're having like a family business for a long time. So they know their expertise, they know all the connections, and if they find the right investment opportunity, they're happy to help, definitely. So that's also like the same for non-Japanese family office too, right? So because that's why I think it's very valuable to bring this foreign family office to Japanese startup as well, because they definitely help. When I say, oh, I want to go expand to German, then German, like, you know, family office, happy to help. So that is like very interesting, like ecosystem and then, you know, dynamism. Yeah,
That's great.
So I have one special question for all of you guys. If you had a magic wand and you could change anything and how financial markets are organized here in Japan, if we could rig the game so that we can build the next Toyotas and Sonys and everything, what would you change? What would you? What would be needed? For example, the U.S. venture capital market is, I think, 100 billion or something like that a year. Japan's maybe 10 billion or something like that. You get a magic wand, you can change everything. How do we build the next Sonys and Toyotas?
And this has been something that I think Japan has changed in the last maybe 5 to 7 years. I think one of the things that I wish is that the company in Japan should stay private a little bit longer before going public. So most of the companies here go public when they are about 200 million in valuation, right? Is that right? Am I right? And that would not be a great, I mean, in order for you to attract capital, like LP capital from institutional from outside Japan, you need to have bigger outcome. And bigger outcome means the financial market has to change so that you can go IPO, you can stay private longer, and I go IPO at multi-billion-dollar valuation, or even $100 billion valuation.
So should we ban early IPOs or something like that, or how do you like?
Yeah, I think you should stay private a little bit. There's a reason why companies stay private, right? Because you can grow much faster staying private, right? In a way. So that's why I don't think you need to go public that early. The second part that I would like to change again, which is going back to our point earlier, is change the mindset of the entrepreneurs here. Most of the startups in Japan today have been created for local market in Japan, and I think we should have a global mindset because, again, significant companies have been created from Japan, you know, so and there's no reason in the future there should be like significant global startup coming from Japan serve a global market as well. And I think like with deep tech and AI, there's a lot of innovation in Japan that I feel like you can go leap forward and go ahead of the curve. Yeah.
So Keiko, magic wand. Here you go.
What would you change? I have a long list.
Okay, let's go.
Well, like one is like, okay, so like we are like, you know, in a finance fintech, so like of course like a regulation is sometimes not really catching up the reality or like innovation of the fintech. So that is something about regulation, maybe like, you know, a little bit more like Okay, you don't have to be flexible because it's a regulation, but I catch up a little faster. so that's fun. And secondly, probably we talk about the conservativeness of the Japanese culture. I think like we need a rock star. We need a role model of the entrepreneur.
We're kind of building stages for those future rock stars, so maybe we can help.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
But yeah, go on. Sorry.
No. So like, like in the US, like had Elon Musk and whoever, right? And when I go to like fintech events, whatever, then I'm only one or two like female founder, right? So like the it's just like minority of the peer is so apparent. If you're like if you're non-Japanese or if you're female or like if you're this and that, so it has to be like somebody is come out as a role model. Like it doesn't matter, he's a rock star and we're gonna admire him, so that's why I want to start my business. So if that's more happening, then probably it will be more vibrant, and this startup world.
Got it. Thanks, Keiko.
Stefan is a rock
Okay,
star.
Stefan, you're also kind of like an amateur rock star, and you also get your magic wand now. What do you change?
Thank you. Well, a lot of people talk about regulation in Japan, and they're complaining for no reason. There's people who don't understand regulation. Japan does not have a problem with regulation. Japan has very clear regulation. It works very well. The problem sometimes is language because of foreign fund managers or foreign corporations coming in. But I've been, working on the Japanese market since 1995, and there are no problems with the regulations. That's, there's nothing to change basically. It's how it's implemented, how it's utilized. What I think should change is we should have in the curriculum in Japanese public schools, we have financial literacy, entrepreneurship. The private schools, many of them do that now in Japan. The public schools don't generally do that. And that's how you can get people interested and understand you don't have to go in and work in a boring company for life and not make any money. You can actually make money, you can work for yourself if you have a good idea. So it's all about planting that seed, but it's not a regulatory issue. It's an attitude issue and a curriculum issue.
But it's changing by now, right? In the past, I think like people would graduate from University of Tokyo, Keio University, and so on. And then you go to one of the big banks or insurance company and stay there for your entire career. You start as an intern or entry-level analyst, and you go all the way to CEO and retire. But that's your whole career. But now I see movement, right? I see in our own clients. Well, I don't want like one of our clients is in the audience right now, have been moving from one corporation to the next. And I think it's amazing because it's also enable knowledge sharing among different corporations as well, and it's create creativity, innovation, and healthy culture.
All right, so to sum it up, the magic wand question, people say that, okay, regulation is not so much the issue, it's like more attitude and more bigger thinking and rock stars. Okay, I think we can work on that. That's great. We're almost done. We have a few more minutes. If there is any questions from the audience, we're happy to take some. Okay, sir, can we get a microphone to this gentleman? Lady, yes.
Hi, very good to see you all speak. Thank you so much. Maybe my question would be also from the magic wand type of questions. If you were to take something from the corporate world in Japan and plant it into the startup world in Japan, what would you do?
What do you say?
Nothing.
Fair enough. Maybe other.
Chang and Keiko, do you
Maybe
agree?
Keiko, you go first because I'm not living in. So those two are living in Japan, so they should know much better than I do.
Well, I think it's again like it's nothing. It's really hard to apply, things to like startups, but you know, if you have like everything, then probably like, you know, stable life, not up and down.
Yeah. I would say one thing that I really appreciate about Japanese corporate culture is the loyalty.
Is what?
Loyalty.
Yes.
In Silicon Valley at one point 2021, you can't even hire people because people move every 6 to 12 months. Then you really don't learn the job after 6 to 12 months. Then you already move. So is this one thing that I really appreciate and I would like to have, like, and I think it's just amazing, is the loyalty in the Japanese culture and especially in corporate.
So you play long-term games with long-term people.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. I love that point on loyalty. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
Do we have any other questions? Okay, gentlemen, in the back. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm currently a student in a local university in Japan. I'm a foreign student, and I came from Vietnam. And I'm studying on Okinawa University now, and I'm really into like building a business in Japan, and I would really love to have some like co-partner as Japanese students too. Even though I know Japanese and I stay in Japanese for almost 5 years, I still face challenges when like approaching with Japanese students. And I wanted to ask your advice, like how should I approach like business, Japanese students, so that we can together use something like globally.
I actually have an answer. You should join the Takeoff Tokyo volunteer team. Let's talk after this. But yeah, what about everyone else?
You check what music they listen to. If they got crap taste in music, you discard them. If they're good taste in music, you start talking to them. Music is what makes them international. So that's where you find the real international-minded people.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's definitely the environment is changing. I think like if I met you like 5 years ago, then like I probably advise you like you bring one Japanese in your team, like as a co-founder. But again, like now it's a very changing environment. So I think you could, if you really understand the culture and then more network, meet people, and the people will introduce the right people. So I think that's the way. And good luck. It's very exciting.
I hear a little bit of different perspective. Well, I don't live in Japan, so keep that in mind. I think you need to think bigger. You should not think I need to mingle with a Japanese co-founder. Again, back to my point about you want to create a global company from Japan, not serving the local market. You should apply to a global accelerator, like the Y Combinator. Especially entrepreneur first, because that's where you can find your co-founders. They can be Japanese or non-Japanese.
Thank you. We have time for one more question.
Hi. It seems each of you are very positive, excited about the changing environment, startups, technology, innovation in Japan. What are you looking forward the most to? What are you anticipating? Where's the breakthrough? What sector? Is it AI? Is it SaaS, software, robotics? What do you have in mind? Like, what are you looking forward to? What are you anticipating? Or what do you want to happen?
Yeah. Very simple for me. Obviously, I'm different from many others because I invest my own money. I don't have any underlying investors giving me pressure, no rules. I look for deep tech, things that can change the world. And that's not, that sounds stupid, but, I'm not investing in JPEG monkeys like they talk about over there. NFTs, is that going to change the world really? No, it's not. Business has not changed. Solving cancer, dementia, using technology for that, that's going to change the world. Education, that's going to change the world. So I'm going to leave the JPEG monkeys out of it.
right. We have maybe Tran can go last, and then we wrap it up.
Yeah, I would say that one of the sectors that I'm, or maybe like together, I think what I'm most excited about Japan is deep tech and robotics. If you look at the average age of the people in Japan, the average age is actually 60 years old. The immigration policy here is, I'm sorry, but it's not friendly. And there's just not enough labor worker. So I think like any robotics or even like AI application with voice, like Open Home, right? So Open Home, we create voice application so they can be, working with any robotics companies or any device, but it could be take an order for you at the 7-Eleven, have you check out and so on. So I believe that AI, deep tech and robotics would be ahead in Japan compared with other market because you actually need it here more than anyone else. I don't see the immigration policy change anytime soon. And our population is aging and continue to be aging.
All right, I think we're over time now, so let's give a big hand to our panelists. Thank you for listening.